In the summer of 1978, the air in our rural Chinese village buzzed with anticipation. The gaokao, the National College Entrance Exam, had been reinstated after the Cultural Revolution, offering a rare escape from the fields and factories that bound most of us. For me, Evette Han, a 19-year-old orphan with a knack for books, it was more than a test. It was a lifeline. My parents, scholars before their untimely deaths, left me a modest inheritance, enough to make me a prize in our status-obsessed community, but not enough to shield me from its cruelties. As I walked toward the exam site, my heart raced with dreams of a university degree, a city job, and a life beyond the village's gossip and grime. Then, a shadow loomed behind me. Rough hands shoved me forward, and I plummeted into the icy river. The cold stole my breath. I thrashed, my exam admit card floating away like a lost hope. By the time I dragged myself to shore, soaked and shivering, the exam had started. I stumbled home, my body racked with chills that turned into a fever. The doctor's verdict came days later. An infection from the river had scarred my womb, leaving me infertile. In our village, where a woman's worth was tied to bearing sons, this was a death sentence to my dreams of family. My fiancé, Ethan Miller, was my only solace, or so I thought. With his sharp jaw and easy charm, Ethan was the village's golden boy, ambitious but poor. His family pinned their hopes on him to lift them from poverty, and I, the wealthy orphan, was their ticket. When I suggested breaking off our engagement, fearing my infertility would shame him, Ethan's eyes softened. "Evette, I love you, not your womb," he said, his voice steady. "Marry me before I leave for college. We'll face this together." His insistence felt like devotion, and I clung to it. We wed in a modest ceremony, the village whispering about my flawed body but praising Ethan's loyalty. I vowed to prove my worth as his wife. I stayed behind while Ethan studied in the city, caring for his aging parents. His mother's sharp tongue cut daily. A barren wife is no wife at all, but I swallowed the insults, cooking, cleaning, and mending their crumbling home. My inheritance dwindled as I sent money to Ethan for tuition, books, and board, believing I was building our future. I worked odd jobs, my hands were calloused, and my dreams of college deferred. Once Ethan graduates, I told myself that I'll save up and retake the gaokao once Ethan graduated. Life was hard, but love, I thought, was worth it. Then came the day I decided to surprise Ethan with a visit, carrying a bundle of cash I'd scraped together. The city campus was a world away, vibrant with students and ideas. I found Ethan's dorm, my heart light with anticipation. But when I knocked, the door opened to reveal my best friend, Lily Chang, in a nightgown, her hair tousled. Ethan stood behind her, his arm around her waist, their ease betraying months of intimacy. The room smelled of shared meals and secrets, a mockery of the home I'd built. Lily's eyes widened, then filled with tears. "Evette, it's not what you think," she sobbed, her voice trembling with practiced innocence. I'd known Lily since childhood. Her family was poorer than most, and her dreams were pinned on marrying well to support her younger brother. She'd always envied my grades and prospects, but I trusted her loyalty. Now her crocodile tears felt like a slap. I turned to Ethan, my voice shaking. "How could you?" Ethan's face hardened, not with guilt, but annoyance. He stepped in front of Lily, shielding her. "Fine, you want the truth?" he snapped. "I hired someone to push you into that river. Lily needed a spot in college, and you were in her way. But I married you, didn't I? You've got a husband with a degree on the way. Isn't that enough?" His words were a knife, twisting deeper with every syllable. Lily, still crying, clung to him, her performance flawless. I saw it then. Ethan's ambition had always outweighed his love, and Lily, desperate to escape her family's poverty, was his willing accomplice. My chest tightened, pain radiating through me. I gasped, clutching my heart as the room spun. "Please help me," I begged, collapsing. Ethan hesitated, his eyes flickering with something, guilt, perhaps, but Lily grabbed his hand. "She's faking it," she whispered. "A dead wife is better than an ex-wife spreading rumors." Ethan's jaw clenched. He stepped over me, locked the door, and left me to die. As my vision faded, their betrayal crushed me heavier than the river's current. I had given everything, my money, my health, my dreams, for a love that was a lie. I awoke with a gasp, my heart hammering against my ribs as if it had just fought death itself. Sunlight streamed through the cracked window of my childhood bedroom, the familiar scent of damp wood and rice porridge grounding me. The morning before the gaokao, June 1978, was in our rural Chinese village. My hands trembled as I touched my face, smooth, unlined by years of toil. The pain of my heart attack, the locked door, Ethan's cold sneer, and Lily's venomous whisper flooded back. I wasn't dead. I was alive and returned to the day before the exam, which changed everything. A strange warmth pulsed in my chest, like a spark of defiance that had refused to fade. In our village, old folks spoke of souls too stubborn to rest, granted rebirth by their own will. My resolve to live, to reclaim my stolen future, had torn me from death's grip. I sat on the edge of my straw mattress, piecing together the life I'd lost. The gaokao was more than a test in our post-cultural revolution world. It was a golden ticket out of poverty, a chance to trade mud brick huts for city offices. As the village's top student, I'd been favored to score high, a threat to others scrambling for limited college spots. Ethan Miller, my fiancé, had orchestrated my fall, hiring a thug to push me into the river so Lily Chang, my best friend, could take my place. Their betrayal wasn't just personal, it was calculated, rooted in the village's brutal hierarchy where status and survival intertwined. Ethan's charm had always masked a ruthless edge. His family, dirt-poor farmers, saw his sharp mind as their salvation, but scholarships were scarce. Marrying me, the orphaned scholar's daughter with a small inheritance, gave him access to my savings, money I poured into his education while his parents belittled my barrenness. Yet Ethan's heart belonged to Lily, whose loyalty he valued over my wealth. He'd gambled on keeping me as a financial crutch while securing Lily's future, a plan hinged on my failure. His ambition wasn't just to escape poverty, but to wield the power a college degree promised in our reforming nation. Lily, too, was driven by desperation. Her family's shack barely stood, her father's debts piling up to fund her brother's future. She'd envied my grades since we were children, her efforts falling short despite her cunning. The gaokao was her only shot at social mobility, but my success threatened her dreams. Clinging to Ethan, she saw him as her ladder to a better life, willing to betray me to ensure his rise lifted her, too. Her tearful act in my past life, pleading innocence as I died, was a performance honed by years of manipulating our friendship to keep me close and controllable. The weight of their deceit settled over me, but fury sharpened my resolve. I wouldn't waste this second chance on blind vengeance. I'd rewrite my fate precisely, exposing their lies and reclaiming my destiny. The gaokao was tomorrow, and Ethan's plan was already in motion. In my past life, he'd given me a new outfit for the exam, bright and distinctive, a beacon for the thug waiting by the river. I'd worn it proudly, unaware it marked me for ruin. This time, I'd turn their scheme against them, letting Lily bear the consequences of their greed. I stood, my reflection in the chipped mirror showing a girl unbroken, eyes blazing with purpose. The village outside hummed with pre-exam tension, parents praying, students cramming, rumors swirling about who'd rise or fall. In this world, a woman's worth was tied to marriage and sons, but I'd always believed knowledge could carve a different path. Before their deaths, my parents taught me to dream beyond the village's confines. Ethan and Lily had stolen that dream once, exploiting my trust and the village's obsession with reputation. Now I'd use their tactics, deception, not violence, to ensure justice. My plan began to form, simple yet sharp. I'd give Lily the outfit, knowing her greed would blind her to the danger. Ethan's thug, expecting me, would mistake her for the target. I'd take a different path to the exam, safe and unseen, and let their plot unravel. The village's gossip mill would do the rest, amplifying Lily's fall in a community where a tarnished reputation was worse than poverty. Ethan, exposed, would face the consequences of his ambition. But first, I needed to face Lily to play the trusting friend one last time. As I stepped outside, the morning air carried the scent of jasmine and anticipation. Children ran past, chanting exam rhymes, while elders gossiped about who'd bring honor to the village. I wasn't the naive girl of my past life, swayed by Ethan's promises or Lily's tears. I was reborn. My will was a blade honed by betrayal. Tomorrow, I'd walk into the exam hall, not as a victim, but as the architect of my triumph. Once broken, Ethan and Lily would learn that trust could forge a stronger reckoning than their schemes. The afternoon sun hung low over our rural Chinese village, casting long shadows across the dirt paths between mud brick houses. It was June 1978, the day before the gaokao, and the air thrummed with nervous energy. Mothers burning incense for luck, students whispering formulas under their breath. I, Evette Han, stood in my modest courtyard, my reborn resolve as sharp as a blade. Tomorrow, Ethan Miller's hired thug would wait by the river, ready to push the girl in the distinctive outfit he'd given me, ensuring Lily Chang's path to college was clear. But this time, I'd turn their betrayal into their undoing, starting with Lily. A knock at the gate broke my thoughts. Lily stepped in, her worn cotton dress clinging to her frame, her eyes darting with envy and calculation. She'd always been slight, her face pretty but pinched by hunger and worry. The Chang's poverty was no secret. Her father's gambling debts and her brother's schooling drained their meager earnings. Lily's only hope was to latch onto someone like Ethan, whose gaokao success could lift her from the shack her family called home. Yet my academic edge threatened her dreams. She'd spent weeks urging me to skip the exam, cloaking her fear and concern, and I'd once mistaken her words for sisterly care. "Evette," she began, her voice syrupy, "you look stressed. Why bother with the gaokao? You've got Ethan, a man who'll be a college graduate. In our village, a good husband beats a degree any day." Her smile was practiced, but her fingers twisted the hem of her dress, betraying her dread. Lily knew I was favored to score among the top, potentially stealing one of the few college spots our province offered. Her grades, decent but unremarkable, wouldn't survive my competition. In our world where women were judged by marriage and sons, she saw Ethan's ambition as her ticket to respectability, even if it meant stepping over me. I let my shoulders slump, feigning doubt. "Maybe you're right, Lily. The exam's so much pressure." Her eyes lit up, sensing weakness, but I pressed on, voice soft. "Ethan gave me this outfit for tomorrow, but it's too big. It'd look perfect on you." I held up the dress, bright red with bold floral patterns, a beacon Ethan had chosen to mark me for the river. Lily's gaze locked onto it, her greed surfacing. In our village, new clothes were a luxury, a status symbol for the gaokao's public spectacle. She reached for it, hesitant but tempted. "Are you sure?" she asked, clutching the fabric. "It's so pretty." Her voice wavered, torn between suspicion and desire. Lily's insecurity ran deep. Years of trailing behind my grades had left her desperate to outshine me, if only in appearance. I nodded, eyes wide with feigned generosity. "Wear it tomorrow. It'll bring you luck, and you deserve to shine." The lie came easily. My past life's trust was replaced by cold calculation. I knew she'd take the bait, her vanity and ambition blinding her to the danger. Lily's face softened, but her words carried a bar. "Evette, I hope you skip the exam. You and Ethan are set to marry. Why risk humiliating yourself if you fail? I'd hate to see you hurt." Her concern was a performance honed over years of keeping me close to control me. I'd believed her in my past life, thinking she was narrow-minded but kind. Now I saw the truth. Every word was a plea for me to step aside, to let her claim the future she couldn't earn. Her desperation wasn't just for Ethan, but for the status a college-bound husband would bring, a shield against the village's scorn for her low-income family. I swallowed a surge of anger, keeping my face neutral. "I'll think about it," I said, then added, "Oh, Lily, don't take the river path tomorrow. I heard some boys say a strange man's been lurking there. Take the long way just to be safe." My tone was earnest, but the warning was a seed of chaos. I knew she'd ignore it, her pride dismissing my caution as jealousy. The river path was the quickest route to the exam site, and Lily, eager to parade the new dress, wouldn't detour. Ethan's thug, expecting me, would see her instead, mistaking the outfit for his target. Lily rolled her eyes, a smirk tugging at her lips. "A strange man? Sounds like you're trying to scare me off. Don't worry, I can handle myself." She hugged the dress to her chest, imagining the villagers' envy. "Thanks, Evette. You're a true friend." The irony of her words stung, but I smiled, letting her believe she'd won. As she left, her steps light with triumph, I felt a flicker of pity. Lily's greed and insecurity had made her a pawn in Ethan's game, just as I'd once been. But pity wouldn't stay my hand. She'd chosen to betray me, and tomorrow, she'd face the consequences. Alone, I paced the courtyard, the weight of my plans settling in. Ethan's ambition had driven him to this, a plot to drown me, not out of hatred but cold pragmatism. He needed Lily's loyalty and my money, balancing both to climb the social ladder. His gamble made 6 cents in our village, where gaokao scores dictated futures and reputation was currency. But he'd underestimated me, and Lily, blinded by her dreams, hadn't questioned his ruthlessness. Tomorrow, I'd walk a different path, safe and unseen, while their scheme collapsed under its weight. The gaokao wasn't just my test, it was their reckoning. The morning of the gaokao dawned crisp and clear, the sky over our rural Chinese village a pale blue streaked with gold. It was June 1978, and the air buzzed with the weight of futures hanging in the balance. For most in our community, the college entrance exam was a distant dream, but for me, Evette Han, it was a battle I'd already lost once. In my past life, Ethan Miller's hired thug had pushed me into the river, stealing my chance at college and leaving me broken. Today, reborn and resolute, I would rewrite that story. Lily Chang, wearing the bright red dress Ethan had meant for me, was walking into his trap while I took a different path, literally and figuratively, to reclaim my destiny. I rose before dawn, my small bedroom lit by a single oil lamp. My hands steadied as I dressed in a plain gray tunic and trousers, faded from years of wear. A straw hat, borrowed from my late father's things, shaded my face, rendering me unremarkable among the village's early risers. The red dress, now in Lily's possession, was a beacon for Ethan's thug, who'd be waiting by the river path to the exam site. My plan hinged on invisibility. Let Lily draw the danger while I slipped through unnoticed. The thought of her greed, her smug acceptance of the dress, sparked a flicker of anger, but I pushed it down. This wasn't about vengeance, but justice, and my focus had to be razor sharp. The village stirred as I stepped outside, the scent of steamed buns mingling with jasmine. Families gathered at doorways, offering hushed blessings to students heading for the exam. The gaokao was a spectacle, a rare chance to escape our rice fields for city jobs, and every eye would be on the candidates. A woman's success was often dismissed in our patriarchal world, but I'd always believed knowledge could defy those limits. My parents, scholars until their deaths, had instilled that faith in me. Ethan and Lily exploited it, using my trust to secure their futures. Today, I'd prove them wrong. I took the long route to the exam site, a winding trail through the bamboo groves that skirted the river. My heart thudded, not from fear of the thug, I was certain Lily's bright dress would mark her, but from the weight of this moment. In my past life, I'd never sat the exam, my dreams drowned in that icy water. Now, each step was a defiance of that fate. The path was quiet, save for the rustle of leaves and distant chatter of other students taking the main road. I passed Old Man Way, tending his goats, and nodded silently, my hat low. No one would remember Evette Han on this route, and that was the point. The exam hall, a repurposed schoolhouse on the village's edge, came into view as the sun climbed higher. Students milled outside, clutching pencils and admit cards, their faces taut with nerves. I slipped into the crowd, my plain clothes blending with the sea of cotton and denim. The proctor, a stern woman in a Mao suit, checked my card and waved me in. I found my seat, the wooden desk scarred with years of anxious scratches. For a moment, doubt crept in. Could I still perform after so long? But as the test papers were distributed, my mind cleared. Math and literature questions felt familiar, as if my past life studies had etched them into my bones. I wrote with steady precision, solving equations and crafting essays, each answer a step toward the future I'd been denied. The room was silent except for the scratch of pencils and occasional coughs. Outside, the village held its breath, knowing these hours could reshape families' fates. In our community, a college degree meant to honor, a chance to send money home, to silence the gossip that dogged people with low incomes. Ethan had banked on that, using my wealth to fund his studies while plotting to clear Lily's path. Lily, driven by her family's poverty, had played along, her envy of my grades fueling her betrayal. Their motives, rooted in our village's brutal social climb, made their actions no less vile. The final bell rang, sharp and clear. I handed in my paper, a quiet pride swelling in my chest. I'd answered nearly every question, my work strong enough to rival the province's best. As I stepped outside, the midday sun warmed my face and a weight lifted, not just from the exam's end, but from the knowledge I'd evaded Ethan's trap. I'd walked the safe path, sat the test, and reclaimed what was mine. The village square bustled with students comparing answers and parents hovering. But I kept to the edges, my hat still low. I didn't need their whispers to know I'd done well. Then I saw Ethan standing at the exam hall's gate, his face pale and frantic. "Have you seen Lily?" he asked a passing classmate, his voice tight with worry. The sight stopped me cold. In my past life, when I'd nearly drowned, Ethan hadn't searched for me. He'd taken Lily to a restaurant celebrating her exam with my money while I lay in a hospital bed. His concern for her was raw, unmistakable, a stark contrast to the indifference he'd shown me. It confirmed what I'd suspected. Lily was his true love, his partner in ambition, while I'd been a means to an end, a wealthy orphan to exploit until he no longer needed me. I pulled my hat lower and slipped past, my heart steady despite the sting of his betrayal. Ethan's panic meant Lily had fallen into the trap, likely pushed into the river as I'd once been. The village's gossip would soon ignite, her reputation tarnished in a way our conservative community wouldn't forgive. My plan was unfolding, but this moment wasn't about gloating but survival. I'd won the first battle, passing the gaokao flying colors, but the war wasn't over. Ethan and Lily would face their reckoning, and I'd be ready for whatever came next. The sun blazed high over our rural Chinese village, casting a harsh light on the crowded square outside the gaokao exam hall. It was June 1978, and the air crackled with the aftermath of the college entrance exam, a grueling test that could lift a family from poverty or condemn them to scorn. I, Evette Han, stood at the edge of the throng, my straw hat low, savoring the quiet triumph of having completed the exam unscathed. In my past life, Ethan Miller's hired thug had pushed me into the river, robbing me of this moment and leaving me infertile. Today, reborn and cunning, I'd turned his plot against him. Lily Chang, draped in the red floral dress he'd meant for me, had taken my place as the target. Now, as I watched Ethan's frantic search for her, the first whispers of her fate reached my ears, and justice tasted sharper than I'd imagined. Ethan stood at the exam hall's gate, his usual charm replaced by a pallor that betrayed his dread. "Have you seen Lily?" he asked a passing villager, his voice edged with panic. The sight stirred a cold satisfaction in me. In my past life, when I'd nearly drowned, Ethan hadn't cared. He'd celebrated with Lily, using my money while I lay broken in a hospital bed. Now, his worry for her was a glaring confession. Lily was his true love, the partner he'd chosen over me, the wealthy orphan he'd exploited for her loyalty. His ambition, fueled by our village's obsession with status, had driven him to plot my ruin, but today his plan was unraveling. I slipped through the crowd, ears tuned to the gossip swirling like dust. A group of women near the well were abuzz, their voices low but urgent. "Did you hear?" One said that a girl was pushed into the river on her way to the exam, fanning herself. Nearly drowned, poor thing. They say her dress tore when a beggar pulled her out. Another clucked, her reputation's ruined. Who'll marry her now? My pulse quickened. The red dress, bright and bold, had marked Lily as Ethan's target, just as it would have marked me. In our conservative village, where a woman's honor was her currency, a public scandal like this was a death sentence to her prospects. Lily's fall mirrored mine, but I was the one standing this time. I went to the village hospital, a squat building with peeling paint, to confirm the rumors. The corridor hummed with chatter, patients, and visitors trading stories of the exam's drama. A nurse, wiping her hands on an apron, spoke to an older man. It was Lily Chang, the one from a low-income family. Pushed into the river, missed the gaokao. A homeless man saved her, but her blouse was half gone when they dragged her out. Everyone saw. The older man shook his head. Her mother must be wailing. No decent man will touch her now. I bit my lip to hide a grim smile. The village's judgment was swift and merciless, just as I'd known it would be. Inside, I glimpsed Lily's family through a ward door, her mother sobbing, her father red-faced with rage. Lily lay on a cot, pale but conscious, her hair damp and tangled. The red dress, now torn and stained, hung on a chair, a vivid reminder of her folly. Her greed had led her to take it, her pride to walk the river path despite my warning. In my past life, I'd trusted her tears, believing her my sister in all but blood. Now, I saw her for what she was, a girl so desperate to escape her family's poverty that she'd betrayed me to secure Ethan's future. Her envy of my grades and her fear of being left behind made her complicit in Ethan's scheme, and now she had paid the price. The hospital air was thick with antiseptic and despair, but I felt no pity, only a steely resolve. Lily's scandal would ripple through the village, and her family's hopes of a prosperous match would be crushed. Ethan, too, would face the fallout. His plan to clear Lily's path had backfired, exposing his ruthlessness. In our community, where gaokao scores and reputation dictated futures, his mistake was a stain he couldn't easily wash away. Yet I knew he'd try, his charm and ambition driving him to salvage what he could. My role now was to stay silent, letting their actions bury them. I stepped outside, the sun warming my face as I adjusted my hat. The village square was still alive with post-exam fervor, students boasting, and parents praying. I'd passed the gaokao, my answers strong enough to secure a top score, but the victory felt incomplete. Lily's fall was justice, but Ethan's reckoning was yet to come. His panic at the exam hall and his blind devotion to Lily revealed a man who'd gambled everything on this plot. He'd used my wealth to fund his studies and my trust to mask his affair, all while planning to discard me. With Lily's reputation in tatters, his carefully laid plans were crumbling. As I walked home, the weight of my past life lingered, the river's cold, the hospital's verdict, and Ethan's locked door as I died. But today, I'd outwitted them, turning their trip into their downfall. The village's gossip would do the rest, amplifying Lily's shame and Ethan's failure. Tomorrow, I'd face them, not as the naive girl they'd betrayed, but as the architect of their exposure. The gaokao was my first step, but the test ensured they faced the consequences of their greed. For now, I let the whispers carry my victory, each word a brick in the wall that would trap them both. The late afternoon sun dipped low over our rural Chinese village, painting the rice fields gold as I walked toward the hospital. It was June 1978, the day of the gaokao, and I, Evette Han, had just emerged victorious, having outwitted Ethan Miller's plot to drown me and passing the exam with precision. Lily Chang, mistaken for me in the red dress I'd given her, had been pushed into the river, her reputation shattered in our conservative community. The village buzzed with gossip, each whisper a testament to my plan's success. But my heart wasn't yet at ease. In my past life, betrayal and exhaustion had led to a fatal heart attack. Reborn, I refused to let history repeat itself. Before facing Ethan and Lily's accusations, I needed to ensure my survival, body and soul. The hospital, a low brick building on the village's edge, was crowded with post-exam chaos, students nursing nerves, families seeking remedies for stress. The antiseptic smell stung my nose as I navigated the corridor, my straw hat tucked under my arm. In my past life, I'd ignored my health, working myself to collapse to fund Ethan's studies while his parents mocked my infertility. The river's infection had weakened me, but the final blow was emotional, Ethan's locked door and Lily's cruel words as I died. Now I knew my heart attack wasn't just betrayal's shock, but the toll of unrelenting strain. I couldn't afford to be careless again. In his cramped office, I found Dr. Zhang, a kind-eyed man with graying hair. Evette Han greeted me, recognizing me from childhood checkups. "What brings you here on Gaokao Day?" I hesitated, then spoke plainly. "I want a heart check. I've been under stress and need to know I'm strong enough for what's ahead." He nodded, no questions asked, and led me to an examination room. As he checked my pulse and listened through a stethoscope, I thought of Ethan's ambition and how he'd used my wealth to climb while plotting with Lily to secure her college spot. His charm had blinded me, but his panic today, searching for her, revealed a man who'd miscalculated, his loyalty to Lily his only truth. Lily, too, haunted my thoughts. Her envy of my grades, rooted in her family's poverty, had driven her to betray me. She'd taken the dress, ignoring my warning about the river path, her greed sealing her fate. In our village, where a woman's reputation was her lifeline, her public scandal, rescued half-clothed by a homeless man, was a wound that wouldn't heal. Yet I felt no triumph, only a grim resolve. Their actions had set this in motion, and my survival depended on staying clear of their chaos. Dr. Zhang finished, his face reassuring. "Your heart is strong, Evette. No murmurs, no weakness. But you're right to be cautious. Stress can wear down even the healthiest. Rest, eat well, and keep your emotions steady. You'll live past 100 if you do." His words lifted a weight I hadn't named. In my past life, I'd pushed myself beyond limits, neglecting fevers and skipping meals to support Ethan. The river's infection, untreated, had compounded the damage, but the deepest cut was the betrayal. Ethan's sneer, Lily's whisper, a dead wife is better. This time, I'd guard my health as fiercely as my future. I thanked Dr. Zhang and stepped into the corridor where whispers of Lily's incident still circulated. The Chang girl pushed into the river and a nurse murmured at a patient. She missed the gaokao, and now no one will marry her. The village's judgment was swift, its memory long. In 1978, post-cultural revolution, our community clung to old values, honor, family, and the gaokao's promise of status. Lily's fall was a tragedy to some and a cautionary tale to others, but to me it was justice. She'd chosen to align with Ethan, to exploit my trust, and now faced the consequences of their greed. As I left the hospital, the evening air cooled my skin, and I felt a clarity I hadn't known in my past life. My parents, scholars who died too young, had taught me to value knowledge over tradition, to dream beyond the village's confines. I'd let Ethan and Lily dim that vision, but no longer. The gaokao was my first step, a score that would open university doors, but survival meant more than academic success. It meant protecting my body from exhaustion and my heart from betrayal's poison. I vowed to eat regularly, rest, and let anger fuel my resolve but not consume me. The village was quiet now, families retreating to celebrate or mourn the exam's end. I thought of Ethan, likely at Lily's bedside, his plans in tatters. His ambition had driven him to this, using my money while plotting my ruin, believing Lily's loyalty would secure his future. Lily, desperate to escape her shack, had been his willing accomplice, her envy masking her fear of failure. Their motives, tied to our village's brutal social ladder, didn't excuse their cruelty. Tomorrow, I'd face their accusations, their attempts to shift blame. But tonight, I walked home under a starlit sky, my heart steady, my purpose clear. I'd survived the gaokao, the river, and their betrayal. Whatever came next, I was ready. Twilight draped our rural Chinese village in soft purples, the day of the gaokao fading into a restless evening. It was June 1978, and the hospital ward hummed with the fallout of the exam's dramas. I, Evette Han, stood at the threshold of Lily Chang's room, my heart steady despite the storm I was about to face. Hours earlier, I'd aced the college entrance exam, evading Ethan Miller's plot to drown me by passing the red dress, his marker, to Lily. She'd been pushed into the river, her reputation shattered in our conservative village, where a woman's honor was her lifeline. Now, her family's accusations awaited, and Ethan's desperation loomed. Reborn from a betrayed past life, I was no longer the naive girl they'd exploited. Tonight, I'd face their fury and turn it against them. The ward was cramped, the air thick with antiseptic and grief. Lily lay on a cot, pale and damp-haired, the torn red dress discarded on a chair like a guilty secret. Mrs. Chang's mother, Mrs. Chang's mother sobbed into a handkerchief while her father, a wiry man with a gambler's scowl, paced. Relatives crowded the room, their faces etched with anger. The Chang's poverty had always hung over them, their hopes pinned on Lily marrying well to fund her brother's future. My academic edge had threatened her gaokao chances, and now, her public scandal, rescued half-clothed by a homeless man, had crushed those dreams. They needed someone to blame, and I, the orphaned scholar's daughter, was an easy target. Mrs. Chang spotted me and lunged, her voice shrill. "Evette Han! You pushed Lily to take that exam, and now look at her. Ruined, no husband will touch her." Her relatives echoed, pointing fingers. "You're jealous, always lording your grades over her. This is your fault." I stood still, my face a mask of calm, though their words stung like nettles. I'd have crumbled in my past life, believing Lily's tears and Ethan's promises. Now, I saw their desperation for what it was, a bid to salvage their status in a village where gossip was law. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open, and glared at me. "It was you," she croaked. "You gave me that dress on purpose. The man by the river, he called your name, but I turned and he pushed me." Her voice broke, but the accusation carried venom. Lily's envy, rooted in years of trailing my grades, had fueled her betrayal, her poverty driving her to cling to Ethan's ambition. She'd taken the dress, ignoring my warning about the river path, her greed blinding her to the trap. Now, she twisted the truth, painting me as the villain to save herself. I let a flicker of confusion cross my face, my voice soft but clear. Lily, I gave you the dress because it didn't fit me. You wanted it, and you said it'd make you shine. I even warned you to avoid the river path and said a strange man was there. Why did you go that way? The room quieted, her relatives exchanging glances. My logic was simple and undeniable. If I'd planned her harm, why warn her? Lily's face darkened, but she had no answer, her pride choking her response. Then Ethan burst in, his hair disheveled, his charm frayed by panic. "Evette!" he snapped, his eyes blazing. "You're here, fine, while Lily's suffering? Do you know how worried I was?" His concern was for her, not me, a stark echo of my past life when he'd left me to die. Ethan's ambition had driven this plot, using my wealth to fund his studies while clearing Lily's gaokao path. He'd chosen her loyalty over my money, but his plan had misfired, and now he scrambled to control the damage. His gaze darted to Lily, then back to me, calculating. He stepped closer, voice lowering to a hiss. "You gave her that dress and stirred up trouble. This is on you." The accusation was bold, but his eyes betrayed guilt. He knew the thug was his hire, meant for me. I tilted my head, feigning hurt. "Ethan, I gave her the dress as a friend. If someone called my name, why did Lily answer? And why are you blaming me when I took the long path like I told her to?" My words were a mirror, reflecting their lies at them. The Changs hesitated, their fury faltering as doubt crept in. Mrs. Chang rallied, clutching Lily's hand. "You've always been trouble, Evette, with your fancy learning. You wanted Lily to fail." But her voice lacked conviction, the room's energy shifting. In our village, post-cultural revolution, the gaokao was a ticket to status, but reputation was everything. Lily's scandal was a wound they couldn't heal, and my calm defiance exposed their scapegoating. Ethan's jaw tightened, sensing the tide turn. He'd banked on my silence, my past life's weakness, but I was no longer that girl. I sighed, my tone heavy with false regret. "I only wanted to help Lily. I'm heartbroken she's hurt." The lie was seamless, and the Chang's glares softened, unsure. Ethan's face twisted. He knew I was untouchable here, my logic a shield. "We'll talk later," he muttered, guiding Mrs. Chang back to Lily's side. As I left the ward, the weight of their accusations lifted. I'd faced their storm and emerged unscathed, planting seeds of doubt that would grow. The village's gossip would carry my innocence, while Ethan and Lily's guilt festered. Tomorrow, I'd push further, but for now, I'd won this round, my strength forged in the fire of their betrayal. The hospital ward's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, casting stark shadows across Lily Chang's cot. It was the evening of the gaokao, June 1978, in our rural Chinese village, where the air still thrummed with the exam's aftershocks. I, Evette Han, stood near the door, my pulse steady despite the chaos unfolding. Moments ago, I'd deflected accusations from Lily's family and Ethan Miller, who'd tried to pin her river incident on me. Lily, mistaken for me in the red dress I'd given her, had been pushed into the water, her reputation shattered in our conservative community. Reborn from a betrayed past life, I'd orchestrated this outcome, turning Ethan's plot to drown me against them. Now the final piece of my plan was about to fall into place, exposing Ethan's crime to the village and the law. Lily's mother, Mrs. Chang, clutched her daughter's hand, her sobs punctuating the tense silence that followed my calm rebuttal. I warned Lily to avoid the river path. I'd said, my logic sowing doubt among her relatives. Lily, pale and defiant, had accused me of setting her up, claiming the thug called my name before pushing her. Ethan, his charm fraying, had backed her, his eyes betraying the guilt of knowing he'd hired the man meant for me. Their desperation to shift blame stemmed from our village's unforgiving code. Reputation was everything, and Lily's scandal was a death knell to her family's hopes. Ethan's ambition, using my wealth while plotting with Lily, had misfired, and he was cornered. I took a breath, my voice measured but firm. "I didn't come here to argue. I've reported the river incident to the police." The room froze. Mrs. Chang's sobs halted and Lily's eyes widened, fear replacing her venom. Ethan's face drained of color, his hands clenching. "You what?" he stammered, stepping toward me. In our post-cultural revolution village, the police were a last resort, their involvement a public stain. But I'd learned from my past life, when I'd woken too late to seek justice, my cries ignored. This time I'd acted swiftly, alerting the authorities right after the exam, ensuring witnesses were questioned before Ethan could cover his tracks. Before anyone could respond, the ward door swung open and two officers entered, their navy uniforms stark against the white walls. The lead officer, a stern man with a clipboard, scanned the room. "We're here about the assault by the river," he announced. The Changs erupted, pointing at me. "It's her!" Mrs. Chang cried. "She gave Lily that dress and set her up." Lily nodded, her voice weak but accusing. The man called Yvette's name. "She planned this." I stood still, expressing quiet sorrow, letting their frenzy contrast my calm. Ethan seized the moment, his voice loud but shaky. "Officers, I'm Ethan Miller, a gaokao candidate. I can testify. Yvette's jealousy of Lily has always been. She gave her the dress to cause trouble." His words were a desperate bid to salvage his plan, to protect Lily and his future. In our village, a college degree promised status, and Ethan's high gaokao score was his ticket out of poverty. He'd used my money to fund his studies, his charm to keep me compliant while plotting with Lily, whose loyalty he prized. But his eyes flickered with panic. He knew the truth was closing in. The lead officer raised a hand for silence, his gaze settling on Ethan. "Are you Ethan Miller from Miller Village?" Ethan nodded, confused but hopeful. The officer's face hardened. "Good. You're who we're looking for." Before Ethan could react, the second officer stepped forward, handcuffs glinting. "Ethan Miller, you're under arrest for hiring a man to assault a gaokao candidate by the river." The room gasped, the Chang's accusations dying in their throats. Lily's jaw dropped, her eyes darting between Ethan and me, realization dawning. The late officer continued, his voice steady. "Thanks to Evette Han's prompt report, we interviewed witnesses near the river. They saw you meeting a person days ago, paying him to target a girl in a red dress. He confessed this afternoon and named you as the mastermind." The evidence was airtight. Village gossip had led to the thug, who'd crumbled under questioning. I'd been too broken to act in my past life, but this time my report had ensured justice moved swiftly. Ethan's ambition had blinded him to the village's watchful eyes, its whispers turning against him. Ethan's knees buckled, but he caught himself, his face a mask of shock. "No, that's a mistake!" he protested, his voice cracking. The Changs turned on him, Mr. Chang grabbing his collar. "You did this to my daughter! You ruined her!" Lily's mother wailed, her anger shifting from me to Ethan. Lily stared, silent, her envy and desperation now a trap. She'd clung to Ethan, believing his promises of a better life, but his betrayal was bare for her and me. In our village, where honor and gaokao scores defined futures, Ethan's arrest was a scandal that would echo for years. I stepped back, my heart steady, the weight of my past life's pain easing. Ethan's eyes met mine, venomous but powerless. I'd outmaneuvered him, using his plot to expose his cruelty. The officers pulled him toward the door, the Chang's shouts following. Lily's gaze lingered on me, a mix of fear and betrayal, but I offered no reaction. This was justice, not revenge. My survival depended on their consequences. As the ward door closed, I knew the village would talk of Ethan's downfall, my role a quiet triumph. The battle was won, but Ethan's desperation would surface again, and I was ready. The hospital ward's dim lights flickered, casting jagged shadows on the faces of Lily Chang's family as chaos erupted. It was the evening of the gaokao, June 1978, in our rural Chinese village, where the day's exam had unraveled lives. I, Evette Han, stood near the exit, my heart a steady drumbeat amid the storm. Moments ago, police had arrested Ethan Miller for hiring a thug to push a girl, meant to be me, but Lily in my stead, into the river, ruining her reputation. My report had exposed his crime, turning his ambition against him. Now, as officers led him away, Ethan's desperation peaked, and I braced for a confrontation that would sever our past forever. The Chang's shouts filled the room, their anger now aimed at Ethan. "You destroyed my daughter!" Mr. Chang roared, lunging until an officer restrained him. Pale on her cot, Lily stared at Ethan, her eyes a mix of shock and betrayal. Her envy of my grades and poverty-driven loyalty to Ethan led her to take the red dress and walk into his trap. In our village, where a woman's honor was her currency, her scandal, rescued half-clothed, was a wound that crushed her family's hopes. Ethan's plot meant to clear her gaokao path while using my wealth, but it had collapsed, and his charm couldn't save him now. Ethan's gaze found me, his face a mask of panic and venom. The officers tugged him toward the door, but he twisted, dropping to his knees and grabbing my trouser leg. "Evette, please," he begged, his voice raw. "You can't let them take me." "You're smart. You'll ace the gaokao and maybe top the province. Tell them it's a mistake. Say you won't go to college unless they release me. Someone will listen. You're my fiancé." His words were a desperate echo of my past life when I'd pleaded for his help as I died of a heart attack, only to be met with a locked door and Lily's cruel whisper, "A dead wife is better." The room stilled, the Changs and officers watching. Ethan's plea was a performance, his ambition laid bare. In our post-cultural revolution village, a gaokao score was a ticket to status, and Ethan had banked on his to lift his low-income family. He'd used my inheritance to fund his studies, and his engagement with me was a strategic move to secure my wealth while loving Lily, whose loyalty he valued. His plot to drown me was cold pragmatism, ensuring Lily's college spot without losing my money. Now, with his arrest, that future was slipping away, and he clung to me as his last hope. Memories of my past life surged, the river's icy grip, the hospital's verdict of infertility, Ethan's sneer as he admitted his crime. I'd given everything, my savings, my health, my dreams, for a love that was a lie. His parents had scorned me, Lily had mocked me, and Ethan had left me to die. The pain of that betrayal, sharper than any blade, had forged my rebirth. I looked down at him, his hands trembling on my leg, and felt no pity, only a burning clarity. He was no fiancé, only a parasite who'd gambled and lost. I yanked my leg free, my voice cold as stone. "You're no fiancé of mine, Ethan. You make me sick." The words carried the weight of my past life's suffering, each syllable a rejection of his lies. His eyes widened, shock giving way to rage, but I wasn't done. I leaned closer, whispering for him alone. "You hired that thug to drown me and locked the door when I begged for life. Did you think I'd save you now?" His face crumpled, the truth stripping him bare. The officers tightened their grip, pulling him up as he sputtered, "Evette, you can't—" I turned away, my heart pounding but free. The Chang's glares followed, but their anger was scattered, their scapegoat now Ethan. Lily's silence spoke louder than words. She knew he'd betrayed her too, her dreams of escaping poverty through him shattered. In our village, where gaokao scores and honor defined futures, Ethan's arrest was a scandal that would echo for years. His ambition, once his strength, was his downfall, and my report to the police had ensured it. The investigation, sparked by my swift action, had uncovered witnesses and the thug's confession, leaving no room for his lies. As I stepped into the corridor, the hospital's antiseptic air felt cleaner, the weight of my past life lifting. The village outside was settling into the night, its gossip mill already churning with Ethan's disgrace. I'd faced his plea, his final attempt to manipulate me, and emerged stronger. In my past life, I'd been too broken to fight, my cries for justice ignored. Now I'd turned their betrayal into their undoing, my survival a testament to my reborn will. Ethan's fate was sealed, but the Chang's desperation and Lily's wounded pride would shape what came next. I walked into the starlit night, ready for their final moves, my victory a fire that no one could extinguish. The village slept under a blanket of stars, the night air cool after the gaokao's fevered day. It was June 1978, and our rural Chinese community, still reeling from the exam's stakes, whispered of scandal. I, Evette Han, walked home from the hospital, my heart light with the triumph of exposing Ethan Miller's crime. Hours earlier, police had arrested him for hiring a thug to push a girl, meant to be me, but Lily Chang in my red dress, into the river, ruining her reputation. My swift report had unraveled his plot, and my rejection of his desperate plea had severed our past. Reborn from a betrayed life, I'd turned their greed against them. Now, as the village's gossip mill churned, Ethan and Lily faced a new cage, one of their own making. Days passed, and the village buzzed with updates, carried by women at the well and men in tea houses. The police investigation, fueled by my report and witness accounts, had confirmed Ethan's guilt, but the Changs, desperate to salvage Lily's future, struck a deal. They dropped charges, sparing Ethan jail, on one condition. He married Lily to restore her honor. In our conservative village, where a woman's reputation was her lifeline, Lily's public scandal, rescued half-clothed by a homeless man, was a stain no family could bear. The Changs saw Ethan's high gaokao score, likely to secure a college spot, as their last hope to lift their status. even if it meant binding their daughter to a man who'd betrayed her. Ethan's family, poor farmers with dreams of grandeur, reluctantly agreed, their savings drained to fund a hasty wedding. The ceremony in a dusty courtyard was a grim affair, far from the joyous unions our village cherished. No firecrackers popped, no red banners fluttered. In a borrowed dress, Lily stood stiffly beside Ethan, her face a mask of forced smiles. Her envy of my grades and poverty-driven loyalty to Ethan had led her to this moment. But the victory she'd craved, marrying a future college graduate, was hollow. Once bright with ambition, Ethan's eyes were dull, his charm buried under the weight of his miscalculation. He'd used my wealth to fund his studies and plotted to drown me for Lily's gaokao spot, only to lose everything to his hubris. The village watched, their whispers sharp. A tainted bride for a criminal groom, one auntie muttered at the market. The Millers spent all they had, and for what? A girl no one else would take. In our post-cultural revolution world, family alliances were currency, and the Chang's gambit was a desperate bid for respectability. Mrs. Chang, ever the schemer, siphoned most of the wedding funds for her son's schooling, leaving Ethan and Lily with little to start their life. Both families hid their resentment, bound by the village's code of saving face, but cracks showed. Ethan's mother snapped at Lily, and Mr. Chang's glares at Ethan spoke of distrust. I heard these tales from a distance, and my focus was on my path. My gaokao paper, submitted with precision, promised a top score and a ticket to any university. In my past life, I'd poured my inheritance into Ethan, neglecting my health and dreams, only to die betrayed. Now, I guarded my strength, eating well and resting, as Dr. Zhang had advised. The village's gossip reached me through neighbors, but I stayed aloof, and my role in Ethan's downfall was a quiet triumph. I'd reported the crime, ensured justice, and walked away from his plea, my heart unburdened by their fate. Ethan's ambition had been his undoing. He'd seen me as a wealthy orphan to exploit, my money a means to his college dreams, while he loved Lily, whose loyalty matched his ruthlessness. His plot to clear her gaokao path was a cold calculus, but he'd underestimated the village's watchful eyes and my reborn resolve. Lily, too, was trapped by her choices. Her desperation to escape her shack and envy of my success blinded her to Ethan's true nature. She'd taken the dress, ignored my warning, and now faced a marriage built on coercion, not love. In our village, where gaokao scores and honor shaped futures, their union was a tarnished compromise, a shadow of the glory they'd sought. As I prepared for college, packing my few belongings, I reflected on their fate. The Chang's deal had spared Ethan prison, but it chained him to a life he didn't want, his high score a bitter irony. Lily, once my friend, was no longer the girl who'd laughed with me over childhood games. Her betrayal, born of poverty and ambition, had led her here, and I felt no pity, only a resolve never to let trust blind me again. The village's gossip painted them as a tragic pair, but I knew the truth. Their love was a facade, their future a battleground of resentment. My victory was in my freedom, my strength, my future. Ethan and Lily's story wasn't over, but mine was beginning, and I'd face whatever came next with eyes wide open. The summer air hung heavy in our rural Chinese village, and the days following the gaokao steeped in gossip and consequence. It was late June 1978, and I, Evette Han, stood in my modest courtyard, packing my belongings for college. My gaokao score, among the province's highest, had secured a place at my dream university, a triumph born of my reborn resolve. Ethan Miller's plot to drown me had backfired, with Lily Chang, wearing the red dress I'd given her, taking the fall. His arrest and forced marriage to Lily, orchestrated by her family to salvage her ruined reputation, had trapped them in a loveless union. Before leaving the village, I had one final task, confronting Lily and unraveling the truth, ensuring their betrayal could never touch me again. I invited Lily to my home, and a neighbor delivered the invitation to avoid suspicion. She arrived at dusk, her once vibrant face gaunt, her eyes defiantly sharp. The borrowed wedding dress she'd worn days ago was replaced by a faded tunic that spoke of her family's poverty. Lily's envy of my academic success and her desperation to escape her shack had driven her to betray me, aligning with Ethan's ambition. And in our village, where a woman's honor and a man's gaokao score defined futures, her scandal, rescued half-clothed from the river, had shattered her prospects. Yet she stood tall, her smugness a fragile shield against her reality. "Evette," she began, her voice laced with scorn. Here to gloat? You got your college spot, but I got Ethan. I'm his wife. A college man's wife. Her words were a taunt, but her fingers twitched, betraying her unease. I gestured her inside, my face neutral. I'm not here to gloat, Lily. I'm leaving soon, and I owe you the truth. Her eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering. In my past life, I'd trusted her tears and died believing her friendship. Now, I saw her for what she was. A girl whose greed and insecurity had made her Ethan's pawn, just as I'd once been. We sat in my sparse living room, the oil lamp casting soft light. I'm sorry, I said, my voice sincere. Lily froze, her smirk faltering. Sorry for what? She demanded, leaning forward. I sighed, choosing my words like stones in a riverbed. Ethan told me the truth before your wedding. He chose the red dress, knowing it wouldn't fit me, knowing I'd give it to you. He meant to drown me, Lily, to clear your gaokao path. You just got in the way. Her face paled, but she shook her head. You're lying. He loves me. I pressed on, my tone steady. The thug called my name because Ethan told him to target the girl in that dress. He even warned me to avoid the river path, thinking I'd wear it. When you took it, you walked into his trap. And now, married to him, you're a burden he's planning to shed. I paused, letting the words sink in. He's promised to take you to college, hasn't he? It's a lie. He's isolating you, waiting for a chance to be rid of you. Lily's breath hitched, her eyes darting as doubt took root. Her desperation had blinded her to Ethan's ruthlessness, but the truth was a crack in her armor. Marriage was a contract in our post-cultural revolution village, and Lily's tarnished reputation made her a liability. Ethan's ambition, once his strength, now chained him to a wife he didn't want, his high gaokao score a bitter prize. He'd used my wealth to fund his dreams and loved Lily for her loyalty, but his betrayal of us revealed a man who valued only himself. Lily's envy had fueled her complicity, but now, faced with his deception, her world was crumbling. She whispered, You're trying to ruin us, but her voice lacked conviction. Go home, I said, my gaze calm but piercing. Listen when you're not supposed to. Hear what Ethan and his parents say about you. She stood, trembling, and stumbled out, my words a seed that would grow. I followed at a distance, my suitcase packed, my departure imminent. At Ethan's house, I lingered in the shadows, the night air thick with jasmine. Soon, Lily's voice erupted, shrill with rage. You planned to kill her, but I got hurt. You're plotting to ditch me, aren't you? Ethan's response was muffled, but his parents' voices carried, sharp words about Lily's tainted honor, her family's greed, and how she'd never catch me. Lily's scream cut through the night, followed by a crash. I slipped away, heart pounding, as shouts filled the air. By morning, the village was alight with the news. Lily, overhearing Ethan and his parents scheming to deal with her at college, had snapped. In a rage, she'd grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed Ethan, killing him instantly. His parents, trying to intervene, were wounded, their injuries leaving them frail. Lily, arrested for murder, faced a death sentence, and her dreams of escape were reduced to ash. In our village, where gaokao glory and family honor were paramount, their tragedy was a cautionary tale whispered with awe and fear. I stood at my gate, ready to leave for college, the village's judgment no longer my concern. Ethan's ambition and Lily's envy had destroyed them, their betrayal a fire that consumed their futures. In my past life, I'd died for their lies. Now I'd ensured their truth came to light, my role unseen but decisive. As I walked toward the bus stop, my future bright with possibility, I felt no guilt, only a fierce resolve to live free of their shadows, my strength forged in the crucible of their deceit. The autumn breeze swept through the bustling campus of my university in Shanghai, carrying the scent of ink and possibility. It was September 1978, months after the gaokao that had reshaped my life. I, Evette Han, sat under a ginkgo tree, my textbooks open, laughter from new friends echoing nearby. My top gaokao score had earned me a place in this vibrant city, a world away from our rural Chinese village's mud brick homes and gossip. Ethan Miller and Lily Chang's betrayal had nearly destroyed me in my past life. Reborn, I'd turned their plot to drown me against them, exposing their greed and securing my future. A final echo from that past, a letter from Lily, arrived as I thrived, but it only strengthened my resolve to live free. The village's whispers had followed me through the summer. Ethan, killed by Lily's knife after she overheard his plans to abandon her, was a ghost in their tales, his ambition a cautionary legend. Lily, sentenced to death for his murder, had left Ethan's parents disabled and destitute, their dreams of status shattered. In our post-cultural revolution community, where gaokao scores and reputation were everything, their tragedy was a stark reminder of greed's cost. Ethan's charm had masked a ruthless drive, using my wealth to fund his studies while plotting with Lily, whose loyalty he prized. Lily's envy, born of her family's poverty, had fueled her complicity, her desperation to escape her shack blinding her to his deceit. I'd left that world behind, my suitcase light, but my heart full. At university, I found my place among scholars, my lectures on literature and math sparking a hunger I'd nearly forgotten. My dorm mates, girls from across China, shared late-night stories, their dreams weaving with mine. We studied under lanterns, debated in courtyards, and laughed over street vendor noodles, building bonds that felt like family. My parents, scholars who'd died too young, had taught me to chase knowledge, and I honored their legacy here. The gaokao, a brutal gatekeeper in our village, was my key to this life, and I'd fought for it with every ounce of my reborn will. The letter arrived one crisp morning, its envelope marked with the prison's stamp. Lily's handwriting, once familiar from childhood notes, was jagged now, her words a venomous scrawl. "You think you've won, Evette, but I know you're reborn," she wrote. "I remember our past life, how I let you die too easily. When I'm reborn again, I'll make you and everyone you love suffer 100 times worse than Ethan's pathetic schemes." Her claim of rebirth, sparked by the shock of her death sentence, was a desperate fantasy, her rage twisting memories of my heart attack into her narrative. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet dorm, and tossed the letter into the trash. Rebirth wasn't a gift for the wicked, it was mine, forged by my refusal to let betrayal define me. In my past life, I'd died for trusting Ethan's promises and Lily's tears. My health and dreams were sacrificed for their ambition. Ethan had seen me as a wealthy orphan to exploit, and his plot was to drown me in a cold step to secure Lily's gaokao spot. Envious of my grades, Lily had played along, her poverty-driven greed masking her fear of failure. Their motives, rooted in our village's brutal social climb, didn't excuse their cruelty. I'd expose them, not with vengeance, but with truth, letting their actions bury them. Lily's threat held no power. The village, with its rigid norms, where a woman's honor and a man's score shaped futures, was a fading memory. Here I was building a life of my design, my strength tested and proven. I joined a study group, my ideas earning nods from professors, and volunteered at a library, sharing books with city children who reminded me of my younger self. My once neglected health was now a priority. Regular meals, walks by the river, and moments of quiet kept my heart strong, as Dr. Jang had urged. The pain of my past life, the river's cold, and Ethan's locked door had forged me, but it no longer ruled me. As I studied under the ginkgo's golden leaves, the campus alive with voices, I reflected on my journey. The gaokao had been a battle, but the true victory was this: freedom to learn, grow, and live without fear. Ethan and Lily's downfall was their own. Greed was a fire that consumed them. I'd ensured justice, my report to the police sealing Ethan's fate, and the Chang's deal was a hollow compromise. Now I looked forward, my dreams no longer tethered to the village's judgment. With every page I turned, the stars above Shanghai twinkled, and I knew that my strength would shape a future no one could steal.